Welcome to True and Unpolished, the podcast, a Cusp culture production. Through this podcast, our intention is to uplift, inspire, and amuse.
Let's get authentic. Hey, everybody, it's Lydia.
I'm Mary.
And you are listening to True and Unpolished, the podcast. And today, Mary and I were inspired to talk a little bit about this notion of sleepwalking through life and how it is really easy to do. And what that brought up in me was, we just finished the Thanksgiving holiday and I took some time off and I was present with my family. And, we did gingerbread house and I was trying to be really intentional about, okay, now we'll decorate and have things to do together. And what I did, immediately after finishing our gingerbread house and finishing some art that we were doing on our windows, I decided I'm going to take pictures because why? Why am I going to take pictures of this? Well, I want to remember it, right? And also I'm going to post it on my Facebook page. And so I went and I posted. And so, okay, here's what everybody needs to know. You guys might remember this if you've listened to me in the past, but I am new to Facebook. So I am just going into my second year. So just a little over a year, I've been doing the Facebook thing. So last holiday, I absolutely did not post any pictures, although I had, dipped my toe in the Facebook world. So here we are, Thanksgiving holiday, and I'm having this time with my family and I want to go and post it. And what I noticed, I watched me do this. And the first thought I had is, what is my intention? Like, why am I doing this? What is it that I think I'm going to get out of posting these pictures? Because I have Google Photos. So I already have the memory thing where it tells you, here's what you were doing last year at this time. I already have that through Google Photos. So I certainly can't lie to myself and tell myself it's because I want Facebook to give me my memory and then I have a timeline so I can look back at my life. That's not true. So why was I doing it? So I didn't really know the answer to that. I just posted. And then I got the dings. The dings, y'all. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Ding. Did I do it well? Ding.
That was a lovely ding.
Yeah. So what was happening when I did ding? I would hear that ding. They were all telling me how much they love the pictures. Oh, your family is so wonderful. Look at them making a gingerbread house. Look at that idyllic Hallmark card family, Hallmark movie family, right? And it feels good, right? That ding, it feels good.
What happens inside of your body?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mary. And I am only now beginning to practice that getting into my body. Okay, well, I'm going to bring it up because you did. So we're meant to talk about it. I am doing this practice. I've been working with this wonderful woman who has helped me really start to get in touch with being in my body. Part of me is that one of the childhood messages that I got was it's not okay to feel safe and comfortable in the world. Like the world is, scary and sinful and, but that's okay because one day you'll die and you'll go to heaven and it will be great. So I have been trying to transcend the human experience for as long as I can remember. So I was working with this teacher who was, trying to help me get back in touch with, really being in my body. And she said, so what happens when you meditate? Because I'm a regular meditator. Is that a word, meditator? Sounds like a potato of some kind, like a breakfast dish. Anyway, so that's a little glimpse into Lydia's brain, everybody. So she, said, what happens when you meditate? And I said, well, I expand. I have no awareness of my body. In the best moments of my meditation, it's this experience, what I call an experience of God. It's this, it's this transcendent experience. And so what she said is, okay, and that's wonderful. And the meditation we're going to work on is not transcending, right? So at first she had me, start to meditate and I could feel right away that I started to fly away, into this space of just being that feels really good and peaceful, but I was leaving my body. Everybody was leaving it. And so we talked about it after, and she said, here's what you need to do. When you sense that you're leaving, when you become aware of that, it's feel your feet on the floor, like feel that touch point of the feet on the floor. So I was really getting used to trying to come back into my body. So, so I recognize that we're talking about, sleepwalking, and, I was talking about a Facebook post. And so, when you say, what happened in your body? I don't know. I'm only now beginning not to sleepwalk when it comes to
in your body.
yeah, like a full body experience. And I was just, go ahead.
Well, what I'm thinking about, and this is something that we've talked about before, is I have type 1 diabetes, and I've been insulin dependent for 25 years. So pretty much my entire adult life, I've been on insulin. And one of the things that happens with insulin is you take too much, and then you get low blood sugar. And it's an experience that actually has been a part of my own awakening. Because what happens, there's places on earth that spiritual teachers refer to as thin places. And for me, having low blood sugar has been one of those thin places. So a thin place, you know what a thin place is, right?
I know, I haven't heard of it before. Go ahead.
A thin place is a place on earth where the veil between heaven and earth is lifted. And what that means is that we have access to the other side, the other world. And so for me, diabetes or the low blood sugar experience is like a thin place.
Yeah.
And there's a book, I know you've read the book by Jill Bolte Taylor.
Oh, great book. It's not
on the name.
I am too. It's
My Stroke of Insight.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. And it's a great TED Talk, everybody. Go listen right now. Jill Bolte. Well, after you finish listening to us, go and Google Jill Bolte Taylor TED Talk. It is amazing. Oh, yeah. I'm going to watch that again. Okay. Go ahead. Thin place. Yeah.
Yeah. So she talks about how she loses basically functioning in the left side of her brain. And so the right side, it governs emotions and is the intuitive part of our brain, whereas the left side is more verbal. It helps us with controlling our body. It's the logical side of the brain. But anyway, so she has a stroke, and this experience basically of the stroke basically kind of lifts the veil, and so she's able to see really truly the beauty, and like she describes looking at her hand and how that she didn't have words to describe it. She was just seeing the beauty and the magic of being able to look at her hand.
Yeah. And she even describes how her hand, because she has this stroke, she's by herself, she has this stroke and she doesn't realize she's having a stroke. So it's this slow realization over time where she begins to lose this function that is the logic, concrete decoding part of her brain. Right. And so she gets in the shower and she puts her hand on the shower, and she literally sees how her hand in the shower wall are one. Like she sees the molecules, she sees that it's like that it's not a solid form, which is what we were taught in science, everybody, is that we're really not separate from the chair in the way that we think that we are. And I'm not a scientist, so I'm going to butcher that.
I think and I mean, if you look at a table, it looks solid, or if you knock on a table, it sounds solid, but if you were to look under a microscope, there's mostly air.
Right. Yes.
So everything is space.
Yes.
And energy
Yes.
that is attached to each other.
Yes.
I'm also not a scientist.
Everybody, that's our disclaimer. We are not. So, but that's what I was going for. It's the solidity, that loss. So she got this glimpse into that. And what was happening with me and my meditation teacher is, or I call her that. Let's go with that. She was trying to help me see that there was another function for meditation that didn't have to do with transcending. So you don't have to sell me on transcendence. I'll transcend all day long. Tell me how to transcend, I'll do that. But what I've come to see, that really the human experience is so purposeful, and I've been trying to bypass, in a way, fully living the human experience, and that has to do with not really being in my body, and I've really, since this time of COVID, and the kids coming home, and me really having to sit down and teach my youngest son, who is autistic, I began to really get a glimpse of, and an understanding, a new awareness about myself. And that is that, what we know, that either my husband or I have the chromosomal anomaly that my youngest son had. And we never, got tested for it. And we love to joke all the time. We'll say, oh, you're the one. No, you're the one. And what I began to be aware of is that I really think that it's me. And I do think that, I am somewhere on that spectrum. And part of that is that things feel very big to me, and so I was trying to protect myself from these big feelings and emotions like love, and so what I learned to do is kind of wall myself off. It's kind of like this insulation, and so I've been working on that. So what you just gave me, Mary, is the next time I am inspired to post on social media, I'm going to not only be aware of my thoughts, which I've become quite good at, I'm going to try to become aware of what's going on in my body. And so I'm very thankful for that practice. That's what I'm going to do next time.
Well, one of the things that you do, and you wrote down right before we got on this call, was taking a moment to pause and breathe.
Yes.
So that would be another way to do it.
Yes.
So what I was kind of just thinking about with this sleepwalking thing, and the past year, how much has happened to invite us collectively as a human species to wake up.
Right. Right.
And at the same time, how I see myself and other people kind of sleepwalking. And I think the whole mask argument, to wear a mask or not to wear a mask argument, is a good example of that. So, for some of us, we may look at people who wear a mask as sleepwalking, and others may look at people who don't wear a mask as sleepwalking. So the issue that I'm bringing up is not about whether we should be wearing masks or not, but just that becoming the observer of our own experience, so that we are paying attention and noticing it, but without judgment. So I've seen a lot of judgment this year. This is the worst year ever. And I know for a lot of people, it has been a really tough year, but there's another side to it too. And so looking at the beauty of it as much as we look at the pain, and seeing the lessons that are held within this year because I think there's purpose to it. And the purpose, the way I see it, is awakening us. Just like the thin spaces with my diabetes, or the reactions that you're having in your thoughts or your body related to social media, those are invitations to awaken us to who we are, our essence.
I agree. And I also think that there are certain things that have a greater tendency to put us to sleep. And I believe, in my experience, social media is one of those. And so what happens for me is that, I, through work, do social media, and that is like such a party line, everybody. I hear so many people say, well, I don't want to do it, but I do it for work. And and so I think that there's, an invitation there to really look at that. Like, what is that about? And I'll just say that I have to step away from it. Like last week, I was very inspired to post. I was doing things. And this week, I knew that I needed to step away from it. I needed, to, because it can, instead of living our life, we begin to escape our life through this thing called social media. And I think so, to become aware of those things that, and I think there are different things for many of us, but I do believe that there's a collective energy to social media for the vast majority of people. And when we say sleepwalking, what that means is we're not fully having this moment as it is. Thich Nhat Hanh did this beautiful meditation. It's on Insight Timer, everybody, and I love it. And he explained, and I heard in this really big way that, if, and I might have talked about this already, but it bears repeating, if whatever is in front of you, if I am standing in front of a tree, I cannot be happy without that tree. So I might be standing in front of a tree believing I'm unhappy because I lost my job, or believing I'm unhappy because I got into an argument with my spouse. But in reality, if I am unhappy, it is because there is a tree in front of me and I am not with that tree. I do not have that tree. And the only way you can have that thing that's in front of you is to be present with it and to become awake to the moment. And so one of the ways that Thich Nhat Hanh invites us to do that is to breathe in and say, I know that I'm breathing in, and to breathe out, I know that I'm breathing out, and to experience the moment fully. And then when you do that, you will truly know what it is to sleepwalk, because you will have the opposite experience of being fully awake. What'd you think about that, Mayor Bear?
Well, I was thinking about my greatest teacher, who is now 14 years old. And when she was just a toddler, I remember her, and I was teaching mindfulness. I had been teaching mindfulness for a while, but when I started teaching it was when I started practicing it for myself. So I didn't go about it the other way around. I didn't learn about it and then start teaching it. I started teaching it, and then I was learning about it for myself. And there's a nice correlation with the birth of my daughter and my learning, understanding, and applying mindfulness in my own life. So so I remember though she was, I think, probably 18 months old, and she stands up in the bed, and it's still dark outside. It's morning. Morning hasn't quite broken yet. And she just stands up and she says, train. And I paused, and I became present, and I listened.
Because you were listening for the train, right?
Right. And I listened in the very faint distance. I could hear this train, the sound of the train. And now when I hear the sound of a train, that awakens me to the moment.
Beautiful.
And so I think for me, and I think for any of us who have children, you will recognize the reality that our children are our greatest teachers, and they also are able to connect with the moment much more easily than we are. And so if we watch them and allow them to be our teachers, then we can learn a lot.
Yeah, that is absolutely my experience. And, it's just, they have not been trained out of that natural. I mean, we think that this is unnatural, right? Because we are used to living in our minds and in our thoughts and kind of being asleep to our thoughts, being one with thoughts and not recognizing that we are having thoughts. And, part of that, is about the labeling. And in A New Earth, Eckhart Tolle, and I always, y'all, I don't know if it's Tolle or Tolle or Tolle. Sometimes I say Tolle when I'm feeling, spicy. But in any case, A New Earth, he talks about the process of labeling. And like, if you watch a child and they're standing in front of anything, a car, they're just kind of in awe and wonder. They have wide eyes, they're looking at it. And then, they begin as, adolescence continues, then we teach them car, right? They begin to get language and we say car. And as soon as we cover up that car with the label, as soon as we give it a mental label, what happens is we are no longer present with the car because we've covered over the mystery that is that thing in front of us with the word. And as soon as we've done that, now our brain just goes to the label instead of the experience of the thing. And that's a great way to just be, I don't know, I say this, I've said this before, but as a kid, I used to go, like I would be sitting next to a lamp and I'd go lamp, 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 lamp. And I'd say it until it made no sense at all. And I don't know why I did it, but now looking back, I believe it was my soul trying to help me lose the word again so that I could have the mystery of the lamp again. Either that or I was just cuckoo nuts, which is highly possible.
No, I think, what you're talking about are that those are skills that I teach that Marsha Linehan came up with. She came up with observe, describe, participate. So the first thing that we do is we notice the experience through observation. And then the second thing is exactly what you're talking about. We describe it. And so what she teaches though is that you want to put the describe in there so that you can then kind of back up and go back to observe. Mm-hmm. And the way that you observe is with a beginner's mind. So noticing with fresh eyes. And Macy, my daughter, had a beginner's mind at 18 months old, just like you had a beginner's mind sort of when you were a child saying lamp, lamp, lamp. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so the observing first, then describing, putting words to the experience is a part of the process. And so once you do that, then you can back up and go back to observing.
Right. And so I hear you saying that, describing is secondary to observing. So you observe first, and it's a way of letting go of the mental label. Like that's how I heard you say that. And, yeah. I'll say too, this practice, doing it with your spouse or your child is so transformative. It's so helpful. I don't know what teacher said this and I don't know where I got it, but I know that it's been really helpful at times when I remember to allow my spouse, my husband, to be new to me. I try to drop any history, and just be with him. You see that this person that you feel so well really is a mystery. And the reason why you don't experience the mystery of this person in front of you is because you are not looking at the person, you are looking at the story you have about the person. And that story is about a history and a past. And so you're building this construct and not actually having the experience of this person. It's really helpful to do, especially, in moments where you're feeling stuck.
Well, I've been thinking about it. I mean, my life has changed in the last year because I'm working for myself and I'm working from home. And I know a lot of obviously a lot of people are doing that now. But whether you're going into an office or working from home, you're probably doing what seems like the same thing every single day. I mean, you look at the same computer screen, you walk the same path to your desk, you walk or drive the same path to your office. And so what happens is you begin to see the same story play out over and over, and it becomes monotonous, and it's the same, doing the same thing every day. But the reality is, if I move a sheet of paper on my desk, then I've changed things.
Yeah.
Things don't happen the same every day. And so being able to kind of back out of the story that we tell ourselves, that I'm doing the same thing over and over again, and really looking at it with each moment and each day with fresh eyes is a part of waking up.
Yeah. And our brains, I know that, and I don't know the exact, amount, but I know that after a certain amount of time, and it's not very long, if you have your pictures in the same place, you actually are no longer seeing those pictures. You put up pictures, right, on your wall, right, and you only experience those pictures for a short time. And one of the things that reminds me of, one of the things that I love about Christmas is, like, right now, there's a beautiful tree in my living room, and it changes the space, and there's this energy to the space that's like new and cozy and awesome. And one of the things that
is that why people started decorating in October?
I bet. Yeah, exactly. And I think, one of the things I love about my husband and what he does is that he moves stuff around all the time. Like I, keep things in the same place. This is where the forks go, and this is where this chair goes. And Keith will just all of a sudden, he'll move everything. He'll move everything around. And my first response he's always waiting for it. Because I always at first go like, no, what are you doing? I liked it there. There's that thought. And then I take a breath, because I recognize that there is such value and purpose, even if we end up moving things again, because that doesn't really work, which happens often. Like, you can't have a piano in the middle of the living room. Like, that doesn't really work. And so, but it's wonderful. Like so everybody, here's another way not to sleepwalk, right? Like, change stuff around right now. Go move picture. Well, after you finish, we're wrapping up, everybody. We're wrapping up. But this is a really good thing you can do, like easy thing that right now you can do to really invite awareness. Because if you change something, awareness is going to happen naturally. Presence is going to happen naturally. Waking up is going to happen more naturally. So move your pictures around, move your chairs around, paint the walls, whatever, but you could
what I was thinking about is our relationships, when you were talking about, how he challenges you to move things around. And I think, so yes, literally you can move things around, but also recognizing whenever somebody elicits an emotion in us, a partner, a child, a family member, a friend, whoever elicits a emotional reaction in us, then that also is an invitation for us to wake up.
Yes.
And so breathe into that emotion and step back and become the observer.
Right.
So that instead of reacting, but which is what I have had a history of doing, is just kind of reacting instead of backing up. And I've gotten better at that. But
yes, you have.
Thank you.
I think you're really good at not reacting.
Thank you.
Especially when you don't react.
Right.
Cracking myself up. So this has been a great conversation. And I know that, really this is going to be woven throughout our conversations, because in truth, I think that, that's the point. The point is to wake up, the point to it all is to wake up. And so I'm grateful to all of you for being here in season 2. I'm so grateful to you, Mary, for this awesome conversation. You have been listening to True and Unpolished, the podcast. Let's see what happens next.